Hey fam, before we begin this episode, I want to offer a very clear trigger warning. In this conversation, we speak candidly about religious trauma, emotional and psychological manipulation, coercive control, and the lived experience of growing up within a cult. Some of the content may be distressing, especially for listeners who have experienced similar situations or carry religious or institutional trauma. Please listen with care and take breaks if needed. If this content feels too heavy today, it's absolutely okay to come back when or if you feel ready. Your mental and emotional safety always comes first. And as always, there will be contact details for organisations if you need to reach out to speak to anyone. I know myself, being suppressed, being kept small, not having my voice, developed so many mental health struggles and addiction and all sorts of other stuff like that. Do people commit suicide in the church? And
Yeah.
how is that looked at?
So that's something that has been something that really riles me up. The church essentially, the basic answer to your question is yes, they do commit suicide, because just like anywhere, people reach a breaking point, and especially when you have very little support, very little treatment options, can't see a way out if the church itself is a driving factor, which for myself in my mental health struggles, the church was a big aspect of that. The fact that I wanted more than what I could have there, to work for a couple of years and then go on and get married and be a baby maker and a housewife. I wanted more than that for myself. And I could see my life playing out in every other female around me. Every woman I looked at, I saw that's my life path, because they all live the exact same path in general, in the main. So for myself, I reached that breaking point in February, 4th of February 2019. I was heading into, it was the start of my year 11. I was really, really struggling. I had planned for, I think probably a year at that point, I'd had a plan that was I'd get through year 12 and then get through school to year 12, and then I'd leave at the end of year 12, or after year 12, I'd leave the church, because I knew I couldn't leave in school. Well, I didn't feel prepared. I didn't know how I'd be able to tackle the outside world as a minor, without any support, having to finish school somewhere else. It just was too much to consider.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the plan I'd come up with. At the end of, in 2019, at the start of 2019, I was heading into year 11, sorry, and I was just really hit a breaking point. I was like, I don't think I can stick this out another 2 years. I don't think I can stay in this environment for 2 more years and not go entirely insane. And the one night, finally, I did hit that breaking point, and I tried to end my life. I took a whole packet of ibuprofen, and in the time that it took to start kicking in, I had this sudden regret and just thought of like, holy fuck, I actually don't want it to end here. Surely there's a way that I can stick out 2 more years, that I can get out of here, that I can build the life I've dreamed of. Because if this is all I ever know, what if I brought good into the world? What have I had to live for? What's been my good impact in this world? And so I ran to my parents. I told them what I'd done. They took me to hospital. I had my stomach pumped. I was in ICU for a bit. Through all of it, the only comments I got from them was anger, shock, confusion, probably completely normal responses to your child trying to commit suicide. But my parents didn't address it in a way that gave me any space to talk about it.
Okay.
So it was never addressed as what it was. In the hospital, I had a doctor who I realise now, having met other doctors, it is completely unacceptable way to speak to a patient. This doctor tried to shame me by making out that it was just she, in her words, it was I was attention seeking, and that it was selfish, and she essentially shamed me for it while I'm in the ICU after having my stomach pumped. And that was more, I probably got more opinion on it from her than I did from my own parents. My parents were there in a clinical sense just to check that I was alive, to see how I was going, whatever. They checked in on me. They never addressed it.
They never asked
never
why?
had a conversation. Mum asked why, but didn't. They had their own ideas. They didn't stop to listen. They didn't give me space. In that moment was way too soon for me to even articulate why. I had no way of explaining. I didn't even know why myself. Wasn't able to put those thoughts together. And then when I was discharged, I remember on the way home from the hospital, my mum said to me, so it was, I think it was like a Sunday night maybe that I did it. And then this is a couple of days later, I'd missed a bit of school, and my mum said to me, so the kids and your classmates and everyone don't know, we just told them you, or I don't think she said even don't know, she just said, so your siblings and classmates and everyone, we've just told them that you've been sick and that's why you've been off school. I don't even remember if I had any more days off school after that. I think I went back to school pretty soon after, and then it was just, I'd been off with the flu.
Back to normal, like nothing had ever happened.
The only time it was ever addressed was, or even commented on, my sister at one point a few months later, got incredibly angry at me, and in her yelling at me about whatever, I don't even remember what the situation was, but she said to me, do you realize how selfish what you did was, and all the pain and weight you've put on the family? That was about the only comments I've ever had about it. My mum said things to that effect, not in anger, but just in disappointment, shame. I never had a chance to speak to a professional and discuss it. I never processed it. I literally moved on, and my way of processing it was to just completely put it away. For a few years, I couldn't even remember the details of that night.
Wow.
I only remember it now because I've had a professional psychologist. I've had people in my life who have made me feel comfortable and safe enough to speak about it, who have asked me about it and cared to hear my answer without judgment. And now I can remember what happened. I can remember more of how I felt, how things were dealt with. I've processed it more in the last 2 years than in the 4 years before when it actually happened. It's their view on suicide. The church's view on suicide is that it's not possible. So they believe when someone passes away, they say they're taken, which means taken to be with God. God's taken them. Their view on suicide is that if it's successful, then I'm using the word successful, then they would say then God chose to take that person. If it's not successful, then God chose it was not your time and you have to stick it out for a bit longer. Which is incredibly unhealthy, because there are children being raised now, there's teenagers, there's young adults, everyone in the church. There's so many people struggling with it, and that is all they are taught. That is all they're given. The irony of it is the church has their own charity called RRT, or Rapid Relief Team. They do events around suicide, around mental health. They have vehicles with stickers plastered up the side about having the conversation and talking about suicide. Where was that conversation when I fucking needed it?
Why do they do that? Is it to look a certain way?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just public image.
Which again is another fuck you to your face
Yep.
for what you've gone through, and it's just another way of let's stimulate and control you.
Yes, mine wasn't successful. I've had friends that were. I've known people, thankfully not any very close friends that I'm aware of, but I've known people who have taken their own life, and I just find it incredibly heartless, also just disrespectful to that person's memory to try and call it something else, to not address the fact that there were issues there. And that person might have siblings, they might have parents, they might have other people around them who now, as a result, are really struggling with their mental health. If we don't have this conversation, it just keeps continuing.
Yeah.
The outside world, society in general, is getting so much better about having the conversation. But it just makes me so angry that it's not just that it's taboo and pushed under the rug. It's that they try and argue that it's not possible. Which is, I can't even believe it some days that they will literally try and argue that when it's happening.
Yeah, I am so sorry you went through that and didn't have someone to wake up to that was just happy you were still alive, that could hold the space for you and could see that there was something more to this, not just something to be swept under the rug. And I just want to touch base on something. This is so incredibly brave of you to share your story, and I cannot thank you enough, because while it is still taboo, it is so fucking common, and the shame and people calling it selfish, those people would never have ever experienced mental health to call it selfish. In your deepest, darkest moment, when the only way you think is to end your life and take it, you are not thinking about anybody else. You're not even thinking about yourself. The pain is just so great. You need it to stop. And how fucking sad is it that that's the only option you feel you have?
Yeah.
And I'm so glad God didn't fucking take you that day, because you're sitting here with me. But I'm just, from the bottom of my heart, I am so fucking sorry that that was your experience, and there wasn't someone that picked you out of that bed and said, I'm so fucking glad you're here. Let me fix this.
Thank you. It's also probably telling. I mean, I know probably a lot of people that struggle with mental health, the shame around it, the stigma around it. It's hard to just reach out to someone. But the only place that I thought I could turn was, I called the suicide hotline that night. I sat on hold for 45 minutes and never got through. And that was when it finally it snapped. That is no slight on anyone who, that whole system, I absolutely appreciate that it's there.
They're trying.
And it's just an example of how overloaded that system is, how big of an issue this is. But no, I never felt I could turn to my family because there was so much shame around it. I never, ever would have had that conversation with them. And even afterwards, the fact that I never felt safe enough to just go and talk to them about it, to have this conversation, is just so sad. I would hate for any one of my family, of my friends, anyone to ever feel like they can't come to me and talk to me about that. And yes, I get that sometimes that is the hardest thing to talk about it. But if you need someone that won't judge, someone that will just listen, everyone should have someone in their life like that. But yeah, that's the reality of it in that environment, sadly.
How do you then get through that as a young woman with no support, the opposite of support, really? Because silence is one thing, but the whole rest of it's a complete another thing. How do you find the courage to then go, no, this fucking stops here, to heal yourself enough to escape? Because it's not as easy as packing your bag and walking out that door.
No, it certainly isn't. I think that was probably the turning point. That was probably the breaking point, in that was when I knew there was no world in which I would stay in the church forever. I still at that point was planning to leave at the end of year 12. I, at the start of year 12, met someone, was in a relationship through year 12, was then headed towards marriage, coming out of school, working for a couple of years, and then the plan was to get married. And that kept me there, gave me a reason to stay for a bit longer. But the whole time I had this thought in the back of my mind that I want to be more than just a housewife, than just a baby maker. Don't get me wrong. The one thing I want most in this world is to have my own children.
Yeah, but on your
terms. I want to have children. I want to build my own family. That is so incredibly special to me. But yeah, on my own terms, alongside a career. Why should you have to give up everything to have a family? To me, that has never made sense. And I saw all the women around me doing that. My mum, you'd have the conversation as a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember a few times throughout my life, my mum saying, oh, if I could have done anything, I always would have wanted to be a midwife or an air hostess. Her answer never changed. So much so that you could tell she thought about it. And I looked at her and just thought, and why didn't you just leave and do it?
Yeah.
Why? You've given your whole life to this system when it meant sacrificing so much. Yeah, so I guess for me, that breaking point was then, but then I stayed a little longer, which is a good thing. I couldn't face the thought of leaving when my little sister was so young. My baby sister is my mini me. I think you've seen photos.
Yeah.
She's literally my spitting image. And she was so young. She was only 3 when, in 2019, when I committed or tried to commit suicide. And then in 2023, when I finally left, she was, what? Math ain't mathing.
5?
5.
No, I can't math either. Old enough.
She was 7.
Primary school age.
In 2023, when I left, she was 7. So, that I wanted to stick around longer for her. I really wanted for my siblings to be old enough to have their own memories of me.
Yeah.
I never wanted for them, all they knew of me was what my parents told them. Because once you leave, you have no control over what story they get told. So that was important to me. Then in 2023, the start of the year, my relationship that I mentioned previously ended, and that was a chance for me to, I suppose, just consider everything, what I wanted in life. And that was when I really realized again that I still have dreams in terms of a career. I am somewhat a career-driven person. I want to be able to do more than just be in admin and whatever for the rest of my life. So I started considering it more seriously again. Had sort of put that thought to the back burner for a while, but in the back of my mind, I always knew it was inevitable. And then I really got to a point where I realized, if I try and leave once I'm married with children, or even without children, there is so many more aspects at play. It is so much harder to leave. When people leave who have children, they often lose their children back to their spouse in the church or to the church. It's just horrific, some of the things that have happened
Is
to
there
break
some
up families.
Families like mum and dad have left and their children have been given back to the church?
There is at least one case I know of that, where they were fought so hard in court that
the church won over mum
they
and dad.
tried to, I think they made out some mental illness or something that made them unfit to be parents, and the church won, and the children have ended up back with their grandparents.
Okay, so not lying is not something they hold to a high esteem in the church?
If we want to talk
Rhetorical
about
question.
lying under oath, you could do a whole episode on all the times when the church has gotten people to lie in court.
Coach them to fucking hell.
But so I really realized that I needed to get out, and it needed to be quick. When around like the week of my 21st birthday, just this time of year, 2 years ago, I had a really big argument with my sister. Of all the really small things to push me over the edge, I had a really big argument with my sister. I was off work unwell, was completely burnt out again, which had become a bit of a cycle for me because I was really struggling outside of work with just the fact that I was just so unhappy in this environment.
Internal burnout too.
Yeah. It was so much more than work. It was not about work at the end of the day. And so I was off work the one day, and I was genuinely sick. I was getting strep throat every time I burnt out. And she came into my room the one afternoon and just let rip at me about how selfish it was to take sick days, and what about when you're a mum and you're married and you've got kids and a husband to show up for, you've still got to cook, you've still got to clean the house, still got to do everything for the kids. Never any expectation that your husband would cook or clean. And I was just so shocked and appalled by that. I was just like, in what world is this that we sacrifice as women? We sacrifice our own health for our husbands and our children and our families, both mental and physical health. And believe me, I've seen my mum do it over the past 20 odd years. And that, for some reason, was the breaking point. I just kept thinking, like, this is not what I want. I want a family where, when I have a family of my own, both parents actually contribute, actually parent, because where I grew up, in my family, my mum definitely pulled the lion's share of the load. And then I started thinking more seriously about it and going, well, I'm at the perfect stage in my life, honestly, to get out now. I don't have a relationship. My siblings are old enough to have known me and have memories of me. I don't have anything really tying me down right now, aside from the very obvious things of your family and everything and everyone you've ever known. And yeah, the more I weighed it up, the more I just realized that I couldn't stay any longer. And what I'd always known in the back of my mind was going to happen, I was like, oh, now's the time. And it is a terrifying thought, but it honestly got to a point of feeling like I knew what I had to do and I just had to do it.
Because you'd watch some people successfully leave, but also unsuccessfully leave too.
Yeah. I'd seen at the end of 2019, I had a couple of close family friends that were the first people ever to leave from Hamilton, because the church only opened up in Hamilton in like 2004. So nobody had ever left in that time, of the 100 and something people there. So I'd had some close family friends leave. I had seen how much it absolutely broke their families, and that definitely was another reason why I put off my leaving. It is so hard on families because they're taught to believe that this is the absolute worst thing that could happen to you. So yes, they're going to be absolutely devastated and distraught. So having seen very close family friends leave, that did change that for me. But then I went into planning mode, and I tell you what, those couple of weeks, it was about 2.5 weeks. Yeah. So it was about, 2 weeks from my birthday, which is the 14th of June, to the 29th of June when I left. I just went, okay, what do I have to do? I had to work out when was the right time to leave. 29th of June worked well for my work commitments, everything. I had to come up with a story for where I'd be. My family, I said I was going to take my car in for service in the town nearby where we had to take them in for service, and would be doing meetings from an office or something all day. To my employer, I took a day off, personal leave, organised it ahead of time. They approved it. It was fine. Thank God I didn't work for a business there. I worked for a business based in Sydney. So those people that I worked with and my parents and family didn't talk to each other, so they didn't know that there was a discrepancy in my story there.
Let's take it back to the day, because I have heard this story and it is mind-blowing. The windows of time or lack of window of time that you had, multiple moving parts, the bravery on top of that, the fear that you would have had, and that exhilarating moment when you changed your clothes. Take me back to the start of that day.
I didn't sleep the night before, unsurprisingly. I remember getting up early in the morning before I had to wait for my dad to go to work, but before my sister got up, so that nobody would see. I had bags, very limited bags, just a backpack and a duffel bag packed with just a few very basic few things I was taking with me, and my camera bag. That was it.
And you were very careful of what clothes you selected too, so that if someone went to your cupboard, yeah.
I made sure I hadn't taken enough for it to look like there was empty spots in my cupboard or anything that would be very obvious. I also didn't want many of my clothes because I didn't want to continue looking like that or dressing like that. But there was a few personal items that I wanted to take, and really all I ended up taking was my birth certificate, my passport, just like documents. That was about it.
Basics, yeah.
Yeah, and then I took those bags, sneaked out. Literally, Dad drove out the drive, and I heard my sister waking up, and I was like, "Oh shit! I have such a small window of time before she walks out into the rest of the house and can see me out the front." I scattled from my room to out the front of the house to the car, put my bags in the back, covered them with something so that when I was leaving, if Mum came outside to say goodbye, she wouldn't see the bags in the back. I didn't want any questions, and then went back inside and got myself ready. And then I think the most heartbreaking thing of all of it was knowing I wanted more than anything to go and say goodbye to everyone. And the one thing I'd been told by my friend who had left and who had given me advice about leaving was, do not, whatever you do, let down your guard. Do not say goodbye. Do not let anyone know you're going, because if you do that for even one person, it will all come crumbling down, and they will make it 10 times harder for you to leave. And he knew, because they'd done that to him. And so I then saw my siblings come downstairs briefly about to get ready for school, and I gave them a hug and said, I'm going to Warrnambool for the day, but, here's a hug goodbye. And knowing it'd be the last fucking time I ever hugged them was so heartbreaking. And then I said goodbye to my mum. I don't think I even hugged her because I knew she'd think that was out of the ordinary and weird. Didn't even see my other two sisters because they were getting ready, and if I'd gone to see them or say anything to them, I knew I couldn't. I knew I couldn't without breaking. I went and got in my car, and the last thing I remember is my mum walking outside with my little sister because she ran outside after me, and then waving from the driveway. And what they all thought was me going to Warrnambool for the day to take my car in for service was the last time I ever saw my younger siblings, and the last time that I saw my mum, and she looked at me like she had for 21 years.
Yeah.
Because after that, every single thing changes. I drove to Warrnambool. I was meant to get, the plan was to drive an hour to Warrnambool. Oh, I actually had to, when I got there, I had to drive to the car place Kia, where we got our cars serviced, and our phones had location tracking on them. We had Life 360, but also location tracking in the actual system that the company puts on them. So I then turned off all location services. Maybe even turned off my phone at that point. I can't quite recall, but no, I turned off all location services there, and then I drove to Kmart. As the doors opened at Kmart, I walked in and bought, for the first time ever, normal clothes.
What was that like?
It was very empowering, exhilarating, but fucking terrifying, because there are 100 or something brethren in Warrnambool, and the chance of me seeing them is very high, and I know every single one of them personally. They know me personally. If they saw me, they'd recognise me.
And they'd wonder what the hell you're doing there.
I felt I literally walked in as the doors opened in the morning and grabbed a pair of jeans, a top, just a basic t-shirt, and then my little, I don't want to look anything like I currently look, and I think this will make me look different touch was to grab some jewellery. And also just I'd wanted to wear a necklace and to wear rings all my fucking life. I love jewellery. Like, you see me now, I always wear it. But, yeah, I went into the change rooms, tried them on. I had no idea how to buy jeans. Still don't know how to buy jeans that fit me.
Same, sis.
But grabbed a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and was like, okay, put them on in the change room and was like, oh crap, now it's starting to feel real. Took them off, put my normal clothes back on, got out of there as fast as I could without anyone seeing me, went to the train station. Plan was to get the train from there to Melbourne, leave my car in the car parking at the train station. It was a company-owned car, so I wanted to leave it somewhere with instructions for them to find it. I left a set of keys with my parents back home, or just at home, just my spare set there. And I, unfortunately, in all of that, I was literally shaking. My whole body was shaking with nerves. Locked my keys in the car and had to call RACV, roadside assist, to come and get them out. And by the time they came and got them out, the train was just leaving the platform. I'd gotten there with plenty of time to spare and then just run out of time. The train had just left, so I missed catching my train. And just before I'd gotten out of the car, I should have mentioned, I deleted all my WhatsApp account, deleted all my data off my phone as much as you were able to. The option to factory reset those phones was grayed out. You couldn't click on it because that would remove them. The monitoring and restriction software they had on it. So I deleted everything I could. What I didn't realize till later, and I'm so fucking glad I didn't know, because the panic that day would have been 100 times worse if I'd known, was that when I did that, deleted my WhatsApp account, it removed me off every group chat. It removed me off the work chats. It removed me off my family groups.
So Lavinia has left the chat.
Yeah, off everything. So for my family, my work bosses, colleagues, I have no idea what they thought. I haven't talked to any of them since, but my family were very concerned all of a sudden. They couldn't contact me because my account wasn't there to message me, and my phone was off. I had turned it off completely. I then, because I missed the train, decided, okay, the next best thing is I just drive to Melbourne and park it in airport parking. So
for those who don't know, how long of a drive is that?
So to Melbourne from where we lived, from Hamilton, is about 3.5 hours. I'd already done about an hour, but it's slightly detoured. So it was still about another two hours-ish.
When everyone that's not meant to know has now known you've done something very much not you, off the grid, and you're running against the clock now.
Yeah. It definitely felt like the clock was ticking anyway, because I knew just being in Warrnambool, people could have seen my car, people could have asked questions. Me being at the train station would have been weird because I'd never taken the train in my life. So I was really worried about if someone had seen me and I hadn't noticed, even without knowing about people now not knowing that something was happening and that the clock was now ticking. And I just drove to Melbourne, and I remember that was it really sinking in. As I drove out of the train station in Warrnambool, I drove out of the train station in Warrnambool, and a massive rainbow, like a full rainbow, came over. And I just remember looking at it and going, I don't know how to interpret this. I want to take this as a good sign, but I know what my parents would say. Sure enough, months later, when my parents became aware of what happened in Warrnambool, they said to me, don't you think that was a sign? Don't you think that was, well, they didn't say don't you think, they said that was a sign. That was God saying you're doing the wrong thing. You shouldn't be leaving.
Wouldn't that be a hailstorm, not a fucking rainbow? I'd go to a rainbow.
They were referring to me locking my keys in the car, but yeah, I just constantly had their voice in the back of my mind saying this is a sign, but in my heart I knew I was doing the right thing and nothing could stop me at that point. Then I got to Melbourne, parked my car in airport parking, prepaid a week or something so that they could, it was there legally and safely and they could find it. Took pictures of where it was and everything, and then walked into the airport. And the Melbourne airport, as big as it is, I have never once been there and not seen brethren. So when you're a part of the community, you know what to look for, so you see them. There are people outside of the community that would absolutely spot them. Once you know what to look for, you can't miss them. They're just so obvious. They don't have piercings, they don't have tattoos, they're always dressed in their certain way. The men don't wear rings, they don't wear ties. They'll just always be in a dress shirt and pants. Businessmen, I mean. The women will always have something in their hair, have covered sleeves, long skirts, dresses, whatever. I walked into that airport and was like, okay, I need to get through the airport as fast as possible, because now the chance of me seeing someone who knows me but knows that I have no reason being in an airport, or might just be nosy enough to message my mum and say, oh, we saw Lavinia in the airport today. Where's she headed? It was just way too fucking high. And so I went and checked in my bag and hadn't seen anyone yet at that point. As I was walking through the airport, through security, I walked alongside some brethren and was just trying to keep my head down and not be recognisable. I had gone with the most worldly version of brethren acceptable clothes I could, if that makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
So what I'd worn that day was sports clothes, so a shorter tennis skirt, but the way we got away with that was we wore long leggings underneath, a top and jacket, and I was just trying to keep my head down and not be noticed. Less so than any other time I'd ever been in an airport. Would never wear sports clothes. You'd be wearing something a lot dressier. And then I got through security, saw some more brethren. I knew if I could get to my gate, I was flying Jetstar. The gates there were like Cairns, Townsville, Rockhampton or something like that.
On the far end of the airport too, isn't it? Yeah.
So in Australia, the Brethren Church only goes as far north as Bundaberg. So I knew if I was in this area, there was no one that should be going to those areas that would make much sense, aside from maybe someone travelling for business, but it's not very common up that they travel up here. So I got the whole way through the airport to the gate and then wanted to find the closest toilet to change, because I now wanted to, this was the point where I swapped lives. I wanted to become the me that wears normal clothes, the me that after escaping, I suppose. So I found a bathroom, and I cannot explain, it sounds so stupid that changing your clothes was such a big moment in my life, but changing out of those clothes into my first ever pair of jeans, a regular old top, putting jewellery on, and probably wearing my hair down. I can't even think. I'm sure I did something different with it. I definitely didn't have any token or anything in it. That was the most unlikely of small moments, but it has, over the last 2 years, become the moment that I think back to so much in terms of just how monumental of a shift this I was creating in my life.
Have you been back to Melbourne since?
No, I haven't yet. I do want to go.
I wonder what that would feel like, walking past that bathroom and walking back through there.
I don't even know if I'd know which one it was. That day is so hazy. It truly, I look back on the weeks between my birthday deciding, that week of my birthday deciding I was leaving and when I left, and it really does feel like I was in a movie or it's something, a story someone's told me about their life.
It's pretty elaborate.
It doesn't feel like my own life. There's other aspects I probably didn't even touch on. To hide my tracks, I had to go and buy a phone from Harvey Norman was step one, because the first time I called my friend up here that lives in Townsville, who I'd grown up with, who escaped the church in 2019, the first time I called him from my normal phone, he said, "Are you calling on a UBT phone?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Don't. They'll have my number blacklisted as someone that's left. Get off it. Don't do it. Call me back when you've got it. If you want to call me back when you've got another phone." So I went and got another phone, cheapest phone I could buy that had access to everything. And from there started building my life. For the first little while of anything that wasn't legal or banking related that you have to use your legal name on, I didn't use my name. I actually went by a name. Most people in my life now wouldn't know because they probably didn't know me that early on in the first few weeks after I left. I went by the name Nyla, which was the name of a character in The Rookie, of all things.
Nyla, now I know who you're talking about. So bad bitch. Yeah.
Nyla in The Rookie had a story about escaping a DV relationship with her daughter, I think, from memory. It's so long since I've watched that, but I was watching that on this dodgy phone in the weeks leading up to me leaving. At night, I would watch whatever I could get my hands on because I could finally watch things.
Yeah.
And I was watching that, and her story was something that I was like, oh wait, I actually kind of relate to this. So I had to pick a name, and that was what I picked because it didn't link back to my name at all. All my social media initially was under that. Yeah, so that's a random fact that I realize now very, very few people would know. But then I had to go to the bank. I had to withdraw all my savings. I was with Westpac, withdraw all my savings, all my money at the bank, walk up the road, and I mean withdrawing cash, walk up the road to Commonwealth Bank, open a new account, set it all up with my new address in Townsville with no link to the old account, specifically asked them to put a note on the file that didn't link back to anything, movement from another bank, because I just didn't want them to be able to follow it. My bank account wasn't controlled by my parents at Westpac, but they had previously, when I was a teenager, had access, third-party access. And then it's such a small town. My parents knew the banking stuff that they went in to see. If they'd walked in and said, oh, she's gone missing, we want to know if there's been any movement on her bank accounts, I have no doubt those people wouldn't have even cared about the rules because they knew who they were to me and just given them the information. So that was a concern for me. The other thing
was that there was another authority that did listen and help.
The other thing I had to do, because one of their first ports of call when someone leaves is to go to the police and lodge a missing persons report. So the week before I left, or just days before I left, I called the police in Hamilton and the police in Warrnambool, where I was leaving from, and let them know I am leaving, I am safe, I'm well, I'm doing this with all my faculties. I have made this decision because of, the control around where I've been brought up, and I have very few options for my life there. And they put a note on file. They listened. They asked if I needed support. They were very understanding. I made it very clear I didn't want my parents to be given any information. I just wanted them to be told I'm safe and well. Absolutely under no circumstances were they to be told where I went. And the police officer said to me, that's fine. You don't even need to tell me where you're going. Just can you give us a contact number in case we ever need to contact you? I gave them the new mobile number. They promised never to hand it on to my parents. Absolute kudos to the police in both places. They were so understanding. They obviously, being public servants in a small town, are aware of the church, because most people in the public service would be. It's hard not to be aware of these groups operating in your area. And they said, reach out if you need anything, otherwise all the best. And we won't tell them anything, but we also won't let them lodge a missing persons request.
Was that your first time being validated, heard and understood in your whole entire life? They honestly, didn't fight you on it?
Probably, yes.
That is at 21 years of age. And it was ringing the police to tell them, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. That felt like something out of a movie. That didn't feel real. Calling the police to say I'm escaping, I'm not leaving home, I'm not moving out, I'm escaping, because realistically that was what it was. I had an escape plan. I wasn't moving out of home, with my parents helping me pack, with supportive people around me, that was the only way I could get out of there, was to escape. So yeah, that was another thing I had to do before leaving. They were probably the big things. And then,
what did it feel like when the wheels left the ground, when you were on that aeroplane?
the biggest fucking relief of my life. The tension I was holding that day, that week, was ridiculous. It by no means went away at that point, but such a relief to know we were off the ground. And being such a small plane, I boarded one of the first because I was at the gate so early, and I watched everyone filter on. I knew there was not a single Brethren person on board, and that was a relief, because if I had spotted anyone I even vaguely thought could have been Brethren on board, I would have been so worried.
Were you sitting there waiting for like the PA announcement to come across, like anything, to a tap on the shoulder, excuse me, miss, you need to get off the plane?
Yeah. In the airport, sitting waiting, because I had gotten there early, sitting waiting, thinking that someone was going to make an announcement. If there's a Lavinia Richardson in the airport, can she report to security? I just felt like something was going to happen. I had so little confidence that I'd be able to pull this whole thing off and not be caught somewhere along the way, because the way they treat someone leaving, I knew in the early stages of trying to plan how I'd get out of Hamilton, it's like I could catch the bus. No. By the time I get on that bus, they could have people waiting at every possible place where you can get a bus from Hamilton to. They could have people waiting at every possible location by the time the bus gets there. And they would. They wouldn't hesitate to waste people's time to say, go and stand at the bus station and check everyone getting off the bus. Because that is how they will do absolutely anything to stop people leaving.
Protect their secrets. Yeah. Protect their lifestyle and what they do.
It's not for you as a person. It's not for you as an individual. They don't care about what's best for you. They care about what they believe is best for you, what they believe your life should look like.
So wheels are up. You're in the air. You're on the way to start your new life in far north Queensland. What were the next few weeks like for you? Because even the other day we were chatting and you said, I didn't even know what live TV was. This is something that is normal to everybody else, but all of a sudden you're in the real world. There's no compound around you. There's no lies. There's no filters. And you're seeing everything for the first time.
Yeah. The first couple of weeks were a bit of a blur. Once the initial escape was over, I was just like, oh crap, what do I do now? I had a minute-by-minute plan up until that point. Once I landed, once I got to Townsville, my friends took me back to their house. It's like, I have no idea what to do with myself now.
What next?
Up to that point in my life, everything in your life is so structured. At that point in my life, I'd been working, so you'd come home, you'd get up, go to work, come home from work, get ready for church, go to church, or you'd have dinner, go to church, come home from church, go to bed, and that next day. Every minute of your day is filled, because that's how they make sure you don't have idle time to think, to plan, to look outside of what you've got right in front of you.
So freedom would have been terrifying for you.
Yeah. It was just so... It's like, oh crap, where do I even start? What do I want to do first? It was the fact of having too many options, coupled with the issue of being terrified that if I left the house I'd be found.
Yeah.
Knowing that every day that passed there'd be more places they're ticking off she's not there, more they'd be looking harder, whatever. As I got on the plane, I sent an email that I'd pre-written to my family, which was my goodbye note, explaining why I'd left. Not saying where I'd gone or anything, just saying this is why I've left. I left a couple of personal messages into a couple of my siblings. Whether they ever got them, I don't know. And then an email to my work saying that I was resigning effective immediately.
And here's the details for where your car is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
car,
I shouldn't
laptop,
giggle, but
everything.
I was just like,
no.
that part, when you told me, it wasn't my car, it was a work car too. I was like, holy, the layers were just so deep.
Yeah. So then after that, I knew that from the moment they got that email and they knew that I'd left, they'd be searching. They'd be trying to find me. As much as I said to them, don't try and find me. Don't try and contact me. I'll reach out when I'm ready.
Mm.
As you can probably imagine, I don't think any parent would take that and just not try.
You could,
so
you'd think you couldn't. As a parent,
yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that from their perspective. But then, it was, for the first day, I think I just sat and watched TV. I was like, oh, I had to be shown how to operate the TV too. Had no idea what I was doing. Still to this day, can't turn on live TV.
Look, not many people can anymore.
I still haven't learnt how to. It's so stupid. Every time I want to, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah, just everything was so foreign. The people I was staying with, they had pets in their house, like dogs, 2 beautiful dogs, and yet the idea of having animals around you inside, despite having grown up on a farm, was so foreign. I was like,
wow.
It just took getting used to. And then I spent some time watching TV and just like, I was honestly in shock, I reckon, for the first couple of days. But once a day or two had passed, I still at this point hadn't logged back into my email address, which was all my parents had to contact me on. My old email address had logged out after I sent the email and never looked back. So then finally logged back into that about a week after I had moved up here, and it was just about full with a barrage of emails, messages every day from someone, from my parents, from my sister, from priests, from one friend. I think one really close friend had reached out. It's the only time she ever reached out to me. Some family friends, like friends of my parents, like my parents' age, had reached out. One of the very first things my mum said on any of those emails was, I always told you your questioning mind would get you into trouble. Now look where it's got you. Wow. And all I wanted to say was, yeah, look, it got me out. It got me the fuck out of Dodge.
Wow.
If I hadn't have asked so many questions, if I hadn't have looked outside of it, I'd still be there with the rest of you.
Do you think she truly believes that, or there's a little bit in her that's just like, I have to say this, but
no, I think that's something that she truly believes. I think she truly believes that I wasn't able to just accept what I was taught and to just live with, just follow the instructions I was given, and to her that is the reason that I am where I am today.
Yeah.
Which it is the reason, but I'm very thankful for it. I'm thankful that I, for some reason, saw through it quite young, started questioning quite young, because there's plenty of people that don't.
And that would be hard, not having, like, as a mother reaching out, pleading, or even a friend, I love you, come back. Like, it's not, it's the shame, the fear tactics that were then put on you, and that, oh, well, look where it got you.
Yeah.
Just completely dismissing it again.
Yeah. I will say my parents respected my request for them not to try and find me, not to come up the minute they knew where I was
and chase you
and try and talk to me. They did respect that. Some of their friends, not so much. I'd been here, I think it would have been like 2 weeks. Was my friends took me out to the Strand on the Saturday, and showed me Juliet's. We'd just gotten ice cream. We were sitting at Juliet's on the lounge chairs that I was staying with here. Took me to Juliet's on the Saturday, a couple of weeks after moving up here, to just walk along the Strand. Went to Juliet's, got ice cream. We were sitting on the lounge chairs looking out at the water, and a head just appeared above me. And it was a family friend who's a little bit older than my dad, he's probably 50, from Hobart, Tasmania, of all places. And my first thought was, what the fuck are you doing here in Townsville?
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and said, can I talk to you? I was like, looking back, wish I'd said no. I was too scared to
Did
say
your
no.
friends understand what was happening at that point, or were they just like,
yeah, because
okay,
my friend who he had lived with them previously or spent a lot of time staying with them previously, so he knew them closely, and they were sort of the mutual connection. I had been down to Tasmania with my sister in the May before leaving in the June and visited their family, so had seen them fairly recently, and yeah, this guy just appears above me, just like towering over me, and just like, we need to talk kind of thing. And they barely even addressed the others, barely said hello to this guy that was like an extra child of theirs for a few years, and then walked off with me down the Strand and said, look, we're with your parents in we're staying with your parents last weekend, and we're talking to them, and we just wanted to come up and check on you and see if you're okay. And then went from concern and compassion to launching into, they mentioned that you're on medication, and like, are you still taking your medication?
so it's becoming a...
Medication for ADHD? Are you suggesting that would make me have some sort of mental break that would make me do something
Wow.
without my faculties intact? This is absolutely the assumption that was being made, or the
story being told.
Yeah, what he was trying to suggest, and I was so baffled. And it's like, my ADHD medication, yes, I'm still taking it. What about it? I was really cold and really, I was so caught off guard. I was so terrified. I remember messaging the one other person outside of my friends there who I'd met in Townsville at that point, and just like sending them an SOS and just being like, I need you now.
Yeah.
I need support here. And then he went on to say, I've seen people battle mental health struggles. I've seen it closely in my family, and I know what happens when you don't take your medication or you're not properly treating it, and trying to suggest that me uprooting my life and moving halfway across the country was all the result of me having some sort of mental health break.
So using your past to shame you and into a reason as to why you would want to leave such a place.
For not 1 second did he ask why I'd left. Didn't seem to even care. It was one of the weirdest ways it's been approached by anyone since me leaving. I was so shocked by how he approached it. I was baffled. And then we walked a little bit further up and met his wife, who I love his wife. She's such a beautiful person, such a caring person, was a very motherly person to me. And she was like, they kind of play good cop, bad cop, but I think that's just the way they are as people. She then sat down with me and asked, why did you leave? What's been going on? What's your reasoning? Obviously didn't agree with it, but didn't try to pass judgment or to suggest that, this was the wrong thing to do, which was very shocking and very much not how I expected her to approach it.
That feels very confusing.
Yeah, almost as if she...
Gaslighting.
It was almost as if she understood or sympathized or something. I really didn't know how to read it. And then they said they're in Townsville for a couple of days, and the next day they came and visited at my friend's place where I was staying, and they then sat down with me and said, like, look, we want to give you the option. We'd really like for you to come back. We understand that going back home might be hard, so we want to give you the option if you'd like to come and stay to live with us, or if you don't want to stay with us, we'll find a house for you. Come stay with us. We'll make sure you have a job. You don't have to come to church. You don't have to whatever. And as much as it sounds like a lovely offer, I know these people well enough to know it would have been, okay, we'll put you up in this house, we'll pay your rent, we'll give you a job, but you have to work for a brethren company, or you come around for dinner one night and then we're all going to church, you're coming with us. There'd be an expectation, and slowly but surely they build it back to the point that you were just back in full force.
Yeah.
I think given that they had a son who had left the church and then they had managed to convince him to come back, I think they thought that they had the magic formula and could get me to come, could convince me to come back.
Probably sold that to your parents too. We've done it. We know what it is. Let us know where she is. We'll bring her back.
Yeah, so
But to find you on the Strand like that
made me feel so uncomfortable and so unsafe. I've never felt so scared for my own safety. In that, those first couple of weeks, I always felt scared. I always felt like someone could just show up out of the blue. But then when it finally happened, it was like just us walking along the Strand on a basic sad day after a couple of weeks when it was probably starting to, all the stress and all the panic was probably starting to go away a little, and I was starting to feel a little more normal. That just felt like I would never really get away from it, and that you could never really hide, and that, not that I wanted to hide, all I wanted was to move on and build a new life for myself on my terms. And I have always tried to make it incredibly clear, and I've said this to my family, and if any of them ever hear this, or if my siblings ever hear this, I want it to be incredibly clear. I left the church. I did not leave my family.
Yep.
My family are not the church. They are beautiful people as individuals. I would love to have them still be a part of my life, but unfortunately, the way they look at it as if they are the church, and that me leaving the church just means I left them. And I think this is really common of the psyche behind cults, is that they can't, it's an us and them mindset. They can't separate themselves from the cult that they are a part of, because to them that is, they're one and the same. They just embody it. But yeah, that made me feel so incredibly unsafe. Just like it definitely made me scared to leave the house for a while after that. I obviously was very steadfast in my decision that I was absolutely not going back. I had zero intention of ever going back. But the fact that someone can just find you there, and when we asked them how they found us, that they were like, oh, well, you know, we're in Townsville, we wanted to find you and we didn't know where you lived, so we figured, where do people go in Townsville on a weekend?
Yeah, that still doesn't seem right.
It's
Townsville's
stalking.
a small place, but you can still live in Townsville for 5 years and never cross paths with someone.
It's
Do you know
stalking.
what I mean? Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, there's something about it that just, I will never feel 100% safe, and like I'm able to just live my life without that happening again.
Do you think part of taking your power back, I remember waking up one day and seeing you post an article in the Age newspaper. I was scared for you. My husband was like, you need to tell her, because to me, a cult will do anything.
Yeah.
So I was scared for your safety. So hearing you so fearful and then knowing you take your power back with that article, how did that feel for you to use your voice finally without fear?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously took a long time. It was nearly 2 years. But yeah, earlier this year, with the whole election going on, the church was starting to get a lot of media attention because they for some reason decided to go out and campaign in flocks this year.
Yet they don't vote. Is that right?
They are not allowed to vote.
Okay.
And what we always wrote on our failure to vote notice was, I have a religious objection to voting, and then you'd quote this scripture. There was a few different ones you could use, but basically it said, like, God raises up people in power, and God basically chooses who's in power. So for years they've not voted, and now this year they went out in flocks and campaigned. It was never about my political beliefs. It was just about the hypocrisy of what they're doing, and the fact that it gained so much attention on them that people who'd never heard of them before suddenly went, oh, a different cult operating in Australia? What's going on? The Prime Minister called it a cult on national television.
That was massive. He did not skip a beat. Not the biggest fan of him.
Regardless of how I feel about anyone in politics, that was groundbreaking.
Yes.
In terms of just shining a light on it and calling a spade a spade. They then came back with a media release. It's available. You can find it on their website, essentially asking for them not to be called a cult and saying that they don't appreciate that. My response to that is, I'll stop calling it a cult when it stops ticking the boxes of what is a cult. There's so many models out there. There's so many different ways that you can assess whether something's a cult. One of the ones I really love that I was introduced to shortly after moving up here was Stephen Hassan's model called the BITE model, which behavior, information, thought, and emotion control. I was shown that at a point in my life when I still couldn't admit that it was a cult, when I still just didn't see it for what it was. I just was like, no, that's not what a cult is, surely. Reading through that list of, I don't know how many things there are in that list, so many points, and realizing I ticked 98% of them. Yes, they do this. Yes, they control you in that way. Yes, they do that. And then I'd go, oh, no, they don't really have physical torture. And then I'd go, oh, wait, actually, no, I didn't experience it. Other people have. I have friends who were gay and they used old-fashioned conversion therapies, beating them with a pair of socks in a stocking, trying to convert them to not be gay anymore.
Phone book beating because it doesn't leave bruises.
Things that I thought didn't exist, I'm now realizing since leaving and hearing people's stories. There were things going on under our noses that we didn't know. So yeah, it was less about the politics, had nothing to do with the politics. It was about drawing attention to the hypocrisy of what they were doing, and the fact that any attention on them is good because it means that more people become aware of it and more people look them up and more people go, oh, that doesn't quite add up. That doesn't sound like what I will call a church.
It makes it less easier for them to operate under the disguise of a church and to keep flying under the radar. Because even you would sit there and some of the friends you've made, they'd be like, fuck off, cults in today's day and age? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So my article, the way it came about was the author I mentioned earlier, who wrote the book about it's called Behind the Exclusive Brethren. He's an author for The Age, and Michael reached out to me and said that a friend had put him in touch with me because I had known things about and seen things, having only been a recent leaver compared to these people who he'd been working with who were 9 years out of the church. I had seen things in how they make donations to political parties and make it fly under the radar while still claiming that they are not, that they have a religious objection and don't vote. So I shared some of that information with him. He asked me my opinions on some of the things the media releases they'd made about the campaigning wasn't coordinated and these people were just doing it off their own bat. And I was like, not a chance in hell.
There's literal videos of one of correct me if I'm wrong, the head of the church's son.
Yeah. but there's
holding signs on
Yeah.
the side of a road.
That was why my article got so much more attention too, because the day before my article was meant to be released, I was waiting for it, didn't know when it was going to come out, and someone reached out and sent me that picture and said, just by the way, this is why it's not coming out yet. Sure enough, when it released, my statements got put at the bottom of that article, compared to what I'm assuming they had written before did not have quite that grunt in the headline and the picture. That is, the church's the leader's family is like some sort of enigma. They're a bit like the royal family. Like, you don't see much of them. I haven't seen recent photos in a long time. So yes, seeing that and seeing him out there wearing the shirt, holding the signs, handing out papers, campaigning, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
How that added so much weight to your story.
Yeah, it definitely did.
How did they think they were going to hide that though?
I think they're so brash that they think they can do it and get away with it. I don't think they care to hide it. Like, at that point, they obviously weren't caring to hide it.
70 to 80 years of it running. You get a bit of cockiness about you. You can't touch us.
Yeah.
We've kept it quiet this long.
Yeah. I was thankful for any impact I could have on it. It might be something small. It might be something completely unrelated to the bigger issues that I am so passionate about. But hey, if I can help in any way, bring attention to it, I've helped a little. And what I didn't expect was some of the results out of that. I had people reach out to me from the other side of the world, still inside the church, saying, I've been thinking about getting out. Wow. Would you help me? Would you give me some advice? At least one of those has left since. Wouldn't talk any more of that. About that. Just
congratulations if you're listening.
Yes, if you ever hear this, congratulations. I won't touch on any more of that for those own people's protection and safety, because you are so vulnerable in that first few weeks, months after leaving. But knowing that my very small piece of information hitting an article of that caliber, getting that attention, meant that someone reached out to me, meant so much. Something that is one of my biggest life achievements will be helping other people get out of there. And having been able to help a few people now, is just, it's the best thing I can do for everyone in there. I can't bring it crashing down. I can't go and abduct my siblings and drag them out as much as I wish I could and would love to. I will never for one moment speak unkindly or be judgmental of anyone who stays, who doesn't leave, because it is an incredibly big trade-off to know that freedom comes with the price tag of giving up everything and everyone you've ever known.
Yeah.
And that I have absolutely no hard feelings towards anyone that isn't willing to pay that price, because I get it. I contemplated for years whether I really wanted to pay that price, but I couldn't be more thankful I did.
Yeah.
I have no regrets. I am so excited for what my life has in store for me now, and what I'm, able to do now. The options are overwhelming. There is way too many options. I don't even know what it is that I want to do with my life. I don't know that most people do.
God, no.
This age, but yeah, it's crazy how many options there are, and just I can choose so much now that
you get to write your story,
yeah,
without restrictions, and light the way for others. Yeah. Generational trauma is something really massive that's getting a lot of talking to on social media, and there's a lot more focus on it.
Yeah.
You using your voice is going to help stop that.
Yeah, I think it's something that's incredibly important to me, is stopping that cycle.
Yeah.
It's creating a world for my own children one day, for the younger me, the people out there that are still stuck in that so circumstances, those systems, whether it be stuck in an area where there's racism, there's homophobia, there's misogyny, there's these sexist, outdated, archaic beliefs about what girls and women should and should not do, how they should present themselves, what impact they're able to have on the world. I, for myself, know that I would be, as much as I'm trying to create the person, make myself into the person I've always wanted to be, I would be such a different person if I'd been raised in an area where it didn't take me so long to even consider the idea of being bisexual. In an area where I was surrounded by people of all races, of all beliefs, respecting people regardless of their race, their belief, their upbringing, just being open and loving. Because for those religious people out there, most people who believe in the story of Jesus, I think would probably think of him as someone who accepted everyone regardless of who they were.
Yeah.
And yet the Jesus that was promoted to us growing up was about as conditional as it gets. It was, that was the story of Jesus, but then the environment where we were taught that, we were not taught but shown through actions that love is so conditional and it's only offered to you as long as you conform. And when you push the limits or walk right out of the circle, step out of that box, it all goes away in an instant. It's more than just your family. It's, my family have stayed in touch a little. I know that if there was some sort of emergency, they'd probably show up at this stage in my life, thankfully. I haven't yet gotten to the point where they've completely cut me off and never talked to me ever again. But my whole community, my grandparents, they're getting older. I'll never see them again. My cousins, my friends, not a single one of them have reached out to me. And I don't begrudge them for that, because I know that that comes with that incredible risk of punishment to them.
Yeah.
But to lose all of that overnight is just...
It's massive.
Yeah.
You hear about people leaving toxic areas, and sometimes it's one person or maybe two, but you've still got friendships or safe towns to go to, not going to the complete opposite side of the country to where you were. I can't imagine the hole that would have left and what it's taken to rebuild that. If there is someone listening to your story today that is in a situation where they feel like they're being controlled within a church environment, or even just in any environment, having gone what you've gone through, because that's just, it's like a movie script. If you could say one thing to them or a couple of things to them today, what would you say?
I think the biggest thing is you have options.
Yeah.
There are people out there, they may not be people you know yet, but there are people out there who will help you, who will support you, who will accept you and love you for who you are, for all the baggage you come with. I come with a whole fucking U-Haul and I've got the most beautiful circle of people in my life now. it seems insurmountable before you start, and at points in the last 2 years it seemed insurmountable again, but I've gotten to a point, it isn't recent, it was a while ago, I would think I got to the point where the good days outnumber the bad days, and you have so much to look forward to. You're building this dream life, and you realize that no matter how hard it was worth it.
Yeah.
Yes, I sacrificed things that I would never choose to sacrifice if I had that choice, but it was worth it. I think sometimes I forget how many people can relate in small ways. I've met people who have been in abusive relationships, who have had to escape. Their story is almost the same as mine in terms of the actual escape. The control in all different areas, different groups, different religions, different relationships. That control aspect is more widespread than we like to believe.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's getting more attention on it. It's finally illegal in Queensland. We finally have these coercive control laws. But yeah, you've got options, and there's a future out there for you, whether you can picture it yet or not. It is absolutely out there, and there's been so many things that I didn't think, smallest things that have brought me so much joy, and have just shown me how free I am. So yeah, I think there's a future for everyone outside of those environments, and it's so easy sometimes for it to be, when you can't even picture it, when you've never seen what it looks like, it's so easy to not even know where to start.
And I guess knowing what you know now of the outside world versus what you knew back when you were still in the church, looking back, what you had to sacrifice, was it worth it to stay in the church? Would it have been worth it to not have all these things in order to follow direction and stay with your family?
If I'd only been thinking about it for myself, it would have been a much closer level on the scales. But the way I look at it, especially when it's hardest and I am feeling most selfish, most upset for what I've lost, my children one day are who I'm doing this for. My grandchildren, the people who will sit around me in a nursing home one day, and I'll realize that they are all able to be themselves in whatever that looks like. They're able to do what they want with their lives. They're able to love who they want to love, live their life the way they choose. That's what I'm doing it for, and that's absolutely worth it. That's generations of lives that can be changed by me making this sacrifice. Absolutely, that's worth it.
I am so proud of you for everything you have come through, and for the bravery to use your voice the way you do. You are so unselfish. You are so loving and caring despite everything you've been through, and see the beauty in absolutely everything. And I adore you. I am in your corner. You're a friend of mine for life, your family. Honestly, I didn't expect that answer from you. Not to that depth. I thought it would be yep, it's absolutely worth it because now I get to live freedom. It is more than your freedom. It is your children's and your children's children's. And like you said to me, this isn't a ripple. This is waves.
Yeah.
You are going to really change someone, and hopefully many people's lives, by sharing something so deeply personal. And I cannot thank you enough for that. And I am so proud of everything that's to come for you.
Thank you.
Because that should have been enough to break you and put you in a shell and hide away. The fear of them coming for you The fear of retribution for speaking your truth would be terrifying, and it would keep many people small.
I think I'm so thankful for you, for your family. Even the voice note you sent me the day my article went live saying, "We are here no matter what. My husband will come and fight anyone he has to fight if anyone puts you at risk." The fact that since leaving, I have got a community, a family. Most people call it their found family. It's the family you build. That I am building a whole ass village of people who I never expected, who have no need to treat me like that, and yet I've seen and experienced more unconditional love from people who were complete strangers not even 2 years ago than I have from my own flesh and blood. And to know that people are just that accepting out there, to be able to, sometimes it's the smallest things. I can sit with a bunch of friends and make a joke where it becomes obvious that I'm bisexual, and not a single person judges, not a single person even has a second thought about it. I never thought I'd find that. I never thought I'd be able to be myself to this extent. To be able to say, my dream is a career in the police force, and that's something that I will put a family on hold, will put other dreams on hold, because I know if I don't give it a shot, I may not get in, but I'm going to give it my best shot. If I don't, I'll regret it forever. To have people around me that say, absolutely fucking yeah, do it, and then have them support me through it, is just, I never could have guessed that I'd have this village around me, this level of support, these incredible people I've met. I have so fucking much to be thankful for. It's honestly overwhelming.
And you wouldn't have been able to picture that getting on the plane,
no way,
leaving that life. You've created this life. You've made it. You've picked your chosen family. And you've had everything against you. You haven't had things to fall back on.
I've also had a really fucking cool opportunity that most people don't have, to get to build yourself from scratch at 21, to get to do things people did as kids for the first time as an adult. Last year on my birthday, the smallest thing, not my birthday, sorry, the anniversary of me leaving, I wanted to do something that was different, like something that I couldn't have done back home. The Townsville show was here that weekend. I went to that show, and oh my God, I was like a child in a candy shop, well, in a show. Literally, I just had the most fun. To get to do those things for the first time as an adult and have those memories where kids probably wouldn't even remember their first time. So much fun. Going to the movies for the first time. Do you remember what movie you watched at the movies for the very first time?
I've seen so many. I couldn't.
Mine was No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh my gosh.
It was epic.
Were you just like, what the fuck is this dark room, and who's going to jump out at me?
So great. I had so much fun, but getting to just do these things as an adult, it's an experience that I'm thankful for, because I had a very different upbringing. I'm so thankful for some aspects of my upbringing.
Yeah.
I wasn't fearful for my safety. I had food on the table. I had a roof over my head. I had so much more than so many people have, and that's not for 1 second lost on me. I am absolutely grateful for that. And then I get to rebuild from scratch as an adult and create the perfect life that I dream of for myself.
I'm so here for it.
I think I got the best of both worlds sometimes.
It's hard to begrudge what you've been through when you know it's created the person who sits here today.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you see the world in a different light as opposed to possibly someone who hasn't been exposed to anything like this.
Yeah.
You don't wish it on anyone, but it's hard to wish it away when you know you wouldn't be the person you are today.
Yeah.
Which is a very tough thing. But two things can be true at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And we will definitely check in as seasons come.
Yes.
Because there's going to be a lot of people who'd love to see where you're at and what you're doing. If anyone's listening who is struggling, please check the show notes. We'll be putting down any supports as possible that we can in there. If you are ever in immediate danger and you are fearful for your life, guys, 000. No if, buts, or maybes. Let them decide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on. And thank
Pleasure.
you for sharing these incredible stories of people's lives. Every single episode I listen to, I get a new perspective, a new view on the world, hear about completely different experiences. It's so empowering to hear women talking about these things, to be able to just speak your truth, however it is, and share your story and know that you're getting to tell your story your way.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel absolutely honoured and privileged to be able to hold the space for people to share their story, because it's not easy, but it's necessary for us to move forward as a community. And as the world progresses the way it is at the moment, we need that connection more than ever. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.